Thanks for joining us this evening. Hello, this is BBC Newsline. Devastating damage in Newry. A man is in hospital with burns and the family pet is killed by a petrol bomb attack. Support for NICAP in London as the government attempts to have a terrorism charge reinstated against band member Liam O'Gohany. After days of debate, this flag will continue to represent Northern Ireland athletes at the Commonwealth Games.
From my perspective, I don't believe that it generates a space that's welcome and inclusive. But no, this ultimately was a decision for the organisation themselves.
Officially revealing the identity of the agent steak knife could help to attract more Catholics to the PSNI. That's according to the Chief Constable. Later, we speak to this man, one of the first in the UK to receive a breakthrough cancer treatment on the NHS.
It's fantastic because a few years ago I was very, very unwell, and now, a couple of years later, I'm able to live a full life. I was able to go back to work. I met Chloe and now we're engaged.
In sport, motorcycling champion Glenn Irwin has announced he will return to the Northwest 200 in May as he reverses his decision to retire from road racing.
And today's cold, wet weather is moving on. Tomorrow will be a lot nicer with some sunshine, but how long will it last? It is getting closer to the weekend. I'll be back with the full forecast.
It's Wednesday, the 14th of January. I'm Declan Harvey. This is what is left of the front of a house in Newry after a petrol bomb was thrown through the living room window. There was a man in the room at the time. He suffered serious burns. 4 other people escaped from the house, but it's been described as a terribly frightening ordeal. With the latest on the police investigation, which has now started, here's Michael Fitzpatrick.
The suspected petrol bomb attack in the early hours of this morning caused extensive damage to this family home. It happened in Clonmore, around a mile from the centre of Newry at around 2:20. A man who was in the living room at the time of the attack sustained a serious burn injury and is currently being treated in hospital. 3 other people, including a teenager, were upstairs at the time and managed to get out of the burning building, but the police say the family's pet dog died in the fire. The 3 people who escaped from the house were treated for smoke inhalation. The police say the property next door was also smoke damaged as a result of the attack. This local MLA says someone could have been killed.
This is a very tight-knit, hard-working, family-oriented community, and they do not deserve to have this visited upon them in the middle of the night. Yes, it was a semi-detached house, and it spread partially to the neighbouring home. I've called them, and thank God they're okay, but that's very frightening for them. And as I said, arson is never the answer, and it doesn't solve any problems.
Police have described the attack as a very serious incident where a property was deliberately set on fire with clear intent to risk life and destroy someone's home. They added they're investigating it as arson with intent to endanger life and have appealed for anyone with information or dashcam or CCTV footage to contact them. Michael Fitzpatrick, BBC Newsline, Newry.
Members of NICAP were back in court today as the government attempt to get a terrorism charge against one of the rap group reinstated. Liam O'Gohany, known as Mo Cara, seen here in the middle, was accused last year of showing support for a prescribed organisation, namely Hezbollah. But the case against him was thrown out on a technicality. Let's bring you live to the Royal Court of Justice in London. Standing by for us is Claire Graham. Claire, it's a lot quieter behind you this evening compared to when we spoke at lunchtime.
Certainly, Declan, only around an hour ago, supporters of Liam O'Gohany left the pavement where I'm standing outside the Royal Courts of Justice. And of course, for many of those who arrived, this wasn't the first hearing that they'd attended that involved Liam O'Gohany, also known by his stage name, Mo Cara. Many of them were there to hear the dismissal of the case back in September. Today was the appeal, and I've been in London as events unfolded.
Liam O'Gohany, known as Mo Cara, wasn't in court today, but his fellow NICAP member JJ O'Doherty, known as DJ Provey, and band manager Daniel Lambert travelled to central London. The West Belfast man had been accused of supporting a prescribed organisation, namely Hezbollah, following a gig in Kentish Town in London in 2024. But last year, Liam Ogue was acquitted of a single terror charge. A magistrate ruled there was a timing issue. Permission from the Attorney General to go ahead with the prosecution came one day too late. 6 months and 1 day after the alleged crime. This appeal challenged that.
And we again gather outside, this time the Royal Courts of Justice, to stand in solidarity with Liam, to stand in solidarity with NCAP, as the British government puts all of its efforts and resources into resurrecting the prosecution.
Liam Ogue is what he's been doing, has been telling a very important story through music, and I think that's very, very important, and that's why we see so many young people following the message of Liam Ogue today and following the message of NCAP.
Legal representatives for the Director of Public Prosecutions argue they had until a first court appearance to get the permission. Liam Ogue team stands by the original ruling.
Standing here in the rain and supporting us the whole way, so thanks very much for everything. But we're here, we're going to reserve judgment, so we'll not know for another few weeks or maybe a bit longer, but thank you very much, and we had to just keep getting the message out there.
Supporters made their voices heard outside this appeal. They'll now be waiting to hear what this court decides.
So Declan, what happens next? Well, there's a reserve judgment, which means we'll find out in a few weeks. The judges say they will release that onto the internet, they'll publish it digitally for all to see. And then we figure out what happens next. If that terror charge is reinstated, Mo Cara or Liam Ogue will go back to the magistrates' courts. If not, if that acquittal stands, then that is it for Liam Ogue, known as Mo Cara.
Claire, thanks so much. You continue to follow it for us. But Claire Graham live for us in London this evening. Back here in Belfast, still to come on the programme. Campaigners angry at the ongoing suspension of emergency general surgery at the Southwest Acute Hospital in Fermanagh say they're now bringing their fight to Stormont. The Ulster banner, also known as the Ulster flag, will be flown to represent Northern Ireland's athletes at this summer's Commonwealth Games. There's been a row, a debate all week really, with suggestions that it could be replaced by a logo, this logo saying Team NI. But that's now been abandoned, and although the Communities Minister, Gordon Lyons, has called it the right decision, not everyone is so sure. Jane McCormick, our political correspondent, has this.
Let's grab your tickets.
The countdown to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow is on, and we now know which flag will represent athletes from Northern Ireland. The Ulster banner will stay. After guidance from Stormont's Sports Minister urged against using this logo, last night the local governing body confirmed no change, saying it will continue to promote equality, diversity and inclusion in all we do, and we note this guidance which will be implemented. Guidance the body said it's been seeking for almost 6 years. Gordon Lyons insists he's not been found wanting.
To take any other position would actually do what many didn't want to see happen, which was alienate those who maybe did actually have an affinity to the flags. So when you don't have anything that is a suitable replacement, it's right to stick with what has served us so well for so long.
That's a position backed by one of our biggest sporting stars, who says when he competed for Ireland, he never thought about asking for a more neutral flag.
Well, I think this is a non-issue, and it's being made into something that it shouldn't be. And it's becoming political. It's a big political story now, and this is about sport. We always say keep politics out of sport, but people keep liking to drag it in.
On Monday, the First Minister said a new logo was a better way forward, but today wasn't keen to drag this row out further.
Certainly from my perspective, I don't believe that it generates a space that's welcome and inclusive. But no, this ultimately was a decision for the organisation themselves. I think their starting point was right in terms of trying to create an inclusive and welcoming space, and I commend that approach to continue and that conversation to continue.
These disputes are best addressed when politicians stay out of them. We don't have a particularly good record when it comes to resolving flags disputes. So I think this is a matter for the Commonwealth Games of Northern Ireland.
One academic who wrote a report on flags and symbols, which has yet to be implemented by Stormont, has been watching the latest debate closely.
There's actually quite a good argument that would be in unionists' interests to come up with symbols that represent and give an emotional presence to the contemporary Northern Ireland we have. So in some ways, I think unionists should be looking at some of these changes more closely.
This particular problem appears to have been resolved, but if the past few days mean anything, it's that agreeing an approach on flags at Stormont remains elusive. Jane McCormack, BBC Newsline.
Publicly naming the former army agent known as Steak Knife would help the PSNI recruit more Catholic officers. That is according to the Chief Constable. So far, the government is blocking any move to officially unmask the man who spied at the highest levels of the IRA. That is despite the fact that it is widely accepted he was Freddie Scappaticci. Today, John Boucher said nationalist communities view the official position with suspicion. He was speaking in Westminster as the PSNI launched its latest recruitment drive. Bernie Allen was watching.
Steak Knife was West Belfast man Freddie Scappaticci, who died in 2023. He was recruited by the army in the late 1970s and operated as an agent until the 1990s. While he was a British agent, he also operated within the IRA's so-called Internal Security Unit and has been linked to 14 murders and 15 abductions during the Troubles. Last month, Scappaticci was not identified as Steak Knife in the Operation Canova report because of the existing government and security policy of not naming agents. But today, the Chief Constable said naming him officially would help the PSNI recruit more Catholic officers.
If you look at any of the news outlets in Northern Ireland, a week does not pass by where there's not a mention of a legacy case. And because of our approach to this case and others, and I'm not talking, I was head of covert policing, undercover policing, I've never breached NCND. That's why we're answering these questions as we are, and I'm not breaching NCND now. But the nationalist community see this as a continuation of what's always happened. Protection of wrongdoing by the state.
The head of the Canova investigation, Sir Ian Livingstone, was also at the committee and said he believed ministers should take the decision in the wider public interest and name him.
The legitimacy of any state agency, whether it's intelligence or law enforcement, can only come from the support of the public, ultimately. And certainly in Northern Ireland, my observations are that this continues to be a major obstacle to that level of support and legitimacy.
Today's comments come as the PSNI launches its latest recruitment campaign, and Mr Boucher says to help him get more Catholic officers into the PSNI, more difficult choices need to be made. Bernie Allen, BBC Newsline.
Now, I just want to say some viewers may find details in this next report upsetting. It relates to the trial of a former teacher charged with indecently assaulting 6 teenage girls at a Belfast grammar school in the 1970s. Today, in evidence, a woman said she felt terrified during her ordeal. William Lloyd Lavery of Richmond Avenue in Lisburn denies the charges he faces. Ida Dungan reports.
William Lloyd Lavery was in his 20s when he was a history teacher at Richmond Lodge School. Today he sat in the dock, charged with 9 counts of indecent assault and 2 further counts of gross indecency against teenage girls. During today's evidence, one complainant recounted how he had treated her in the run-up to an alleged assault when she was 13 years old. She said initially he had made her feel special. He had stopped and chatted to her on the corridor. She then described how in class he would walk past her desk and stroke her hair and then run his hand up and down her back. She said this made her feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. The woman, who is now in her 60s, said on one particular day when she had done poorly in a history test, William Lloyd Lavery asked her to come to see him during the lunch break. She said that he took her to a small dark storeroom, sat down beside her, their knees rubbing. He started to discuss the history test. He asked her if she knew where in the body the symptoms of the plague developed. She said she didn't. He said they started in the groin and in the armpit. He then reached across her, put his hand on her armpit, moved it towards her breast, and then rubbed her groin. She said she was absolutely terrified, and the ordeal had had a profound effect on her. During cross-examination, senior counsel for the defence said to the woman that the incidents that she had recounted simply did not happen. In response, the woman said the incident in the storeroom had been ingrained in her mind and that she had had a vivid memory of it since she was 13 years old. Ita Dungan, BBC Newsline at Belfast Crown Court.
Now, this County Antrim man has become one of the first patients in the UK to benefit from a cancer therapy which seems to improve survival rates. His name is Chris Williams. He's from Green Island, and he says the much less toxic immunotherapy known as CAR-T means he has been free of leukemia for almost 3 years. He's now planning his wedding. Here's our health reporter, Aileen Moyna.
I don't need like 3 peppers for dinner.
Simple, everyday tasks with his fiancée. A future Chris Williams wasn't sure he would see when he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia in 2021. After being in remission for nearly a year, his cancer came back.
There was talk about having another stem cell transplant. My first one was particularly quite rough, so I was really anxious about that. And I had to start chemo again. So this idea of trying a different treatment, which the doctors said might be a bit easier on my body, it was definitely something that I was willing to give a go.
A new clinical trial offered hope to Chris. The personalised treatment called CAR-T therapy involved taking his immune cells and reprogramming them in a lab to identify and target his cancer. And for him, it worked.
It's fantastic because a few years ago I was very, very unwell, and now, a couple of years later, I'm able to live a full life. I was able to go back to work. I met Chloe and now we're engaged. I have fantastic support from my family and they're over the moon as well, and I'm so grateful to be here still.
Usually this type of leukemia is very aggressive, and in that kind of setting patients don't live beyond 6 to 8 months. With this therapy we are able to offer them years and potentially a cure, so of course it's very significant. I mean, this is of course revolutionizing the way we tackle this cancer.
And now tackling this aggressive cancer with CAR-T therapy is available on the NHS. It's for patients who haven't responded to treatment or, like Chris, whose cancer returned, although those in Northern Ireland will need to travel to England to get it.
I think it might be Dublin, yeah. I think it might be...
No, that's the golf course in Glengorma.
Oh, yeah, the mini golf.
But for Chris, it's changed his life and means he can now make more memories with Chloe, including planning a wedding. Aileen Moyna, BBC Newsline.
As US President Donald Trump considers whether to take action against Iran over its crackdown on anti-government protests, Iranians around the world are watching events unfold. One man who fled the country and now lives here is worried, understandably, for his family back home. He's been speaking to our reporter, Maria McCann.
Unrest began in December following the collapse of the currency and soaring living costs, but later broadened into anti-government protests. It's estimated by one human rights organisation that about 2,500 protesters have been killed in a government crackdown. 18,000 others are believed to have been detained. But with an internet blackout since last Thursday, reliable information from Iran is scarce, meaning Iranians living in other parts of the world, including here in Northern Ireland, are waiting for updates and worried about loved ones back home.
I was born in Iran and I grew up in Iran, and I had to flee from Iran. I arrived here 2.5 years ago, but I still have family and friends in Iran, in Tehran. They are living under brutal oppression. The regime has, just like now, whenever protests happen, they shut down the internet. People don't have the freedom of speech. They can't go to street, have a peaceful protest. You don't have the right to criticize the regime, and just a tyranny.
With the reported threat of protesters being executed, Donald Trump has said the US will take very strong action. Mohammed said there needs to be international intervention.
Donald Trump has energized the people, and we really hope that he helps us to get rid of the regime. And after that, we really hope that the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi would lead us through the transition phase until a referendum happens and democratically people would vote for the next secular democratic system.
As the world watches on, Mohammed hopes his family and friends in Tehran stay safe. Maria McCann, BBC Newsline.
Campaigners from County Fermanagh say they are now bringing their fight to Stormont, angry at the ongoing suspension of emergency general surgery at the Southwest Acute Hospital, the SWA, in Enniskillen. The service was supposedly paused in 2022, but locals say they were misled over its return. There was a public meeting last night. Our health correspondent Marlouise Connolly was there.
Many have lived in the area for decades, and last night they turned out again to continue their call for emergency general surgery to be reinstated at the Southwest Acute Hospital, or SWA, in Enniskillen.
We need this service. It's life-saving, it's crucial, and it's our right.
With feelings that rural voices aren't being heard, the protest is to move to Stormont.
Well, the community feels they've been abandoned, they've been forsaken, and that Stormont's not listening. We're now more than 3 years without access to life-saving surgery in an emergency. And there's a very long way around that road from Enniskillen all the way up to Altnagelvin.
Emergency general surgery treats sudden and serious conditions such as bowel obstructions and hernias. In 2022, the service was temporarily suspended by the Western Trust when safety measures couldn't be met and surgical rotas unfilled. Instead, around 2 patients travel daily by ambulance an hour and a half away to Altnagelvin. Campaigners are legally challenging the Western Health Trust's move to suspend emergency general surgery at the Southwest Acute Hospital. People here this evening say they feel frustrated, fed up, they feel abandoned, and their right to a viable health service is being ignored. The community believes that steps taken over the past 3 years have led to this outcome, confirmed, they say, by this admission to the Health Committee in November.
I think if you take the logic of your well-made points, there is inevitability that this won't be back, because once you've stopped it, you cannot meet the new standards.
Altnagelvin is now the Western Trust's main hub for emergency general surgery. The Trust says it's proving successful. Locals aren't convinced.
No community should be disadvantaged by its geography, and that level of rural proofing has not happened with this decision.
The Western Trust says reinstating the service at SWA would require investment, which isn't currently on the cards. Mary-Louise Connolly, BBC Newsline.
OK, let's turn to sport. Nicola is here. If I could phrase it this way, Nicola, one of our finest motorcyclist has been backpedalling.
Well, absolutely. I think you've done well there, Declan. Some big news today, much to the delight of road racing fans. Good evening, everyone. Now, Glenn Irwin quit road racing in 2024. Now, he's reversed his decision. So one of the biggest stars of the sport will return to Northern Ireland's biggest outdoor sporting event in May. Glenn Irwin is the Northwest 200 Superbike record holder and will ride at the event as well as the British Superbike Championship. Irwin, who was seriously injured last year while racing in England, was tempted back by the nitrous competition's Ducati team. He broke the news to Stephen Watson on the Nolan Show on Radio Ulster.
When something like that's put to you after being in the low of the low where I was last year, and there's that realisation there will be a day when you want to do things, and unfortunately the body has given up. And when the proposal came through, you know, if I have to go and win the Northwest 200 again, to give me the best possible chance to win British Superbikes, I think that's a credit to the event, and that's something I'm more than prepared to do.
How difficult a decision has this been for you to make?
Road racing has its obvious risks as well, and I have 3 beautiful children and a great fiance at home as such, and they're a huge part of my everyday life and our racing journey. So we're all extremely excited to spend time up there again. Of course, everyone would probably like their husband to not be racing in one sense, and I understand that. So we have a dream as a family, and that's to win the British Superbike Championship as well. And that my dream's altered a little bit now, where it's to win 14 Northwest.
There was plenty of Irish League and Cup football last night. Defending Premiership champions Linfield were held to a scoreless draw by Carrick Rangers, which gave leaders Larne an opportunity to extend their lead at the top of the table.
And it was a convincing win for the Invermen, running out 4-1 winners at the Oval, a result which sees them sit 10 points clear of second place Coleraine at the top.
Don't get too carried away, and there's a long way to go. There's so many points to be played for, and football's like that. You can go on good runs, but you can equally go on bad ones. So we need to just keep our feet on the ground, keep working hard, and just focus on the next task, which is Linfield on Friday night.
Elsewhere, Ballymena drew 2-2 at home to Cliftonville. It was the final appearance for their goalkeeper Sean O'Neill, who retired after 21 years at the top level.
But I'm just happy. I'm content on what they've done in my career. Thankfully, I've won everything there is to win, so that's always a bonus as well. So, appreciate all the clubs who have been so good to me over the years, especially this one. Started out here and to finish here, it was nice.
In the Irish Cup Championship side, Newington Youth were on the cusp of causing an upset against Glenavon. The Premiership side needed extra time to eventually win 4-2 and set up a 6th round meeting with Cliftonville.
Staying with football, and defender Oran Casey played last night for Cliftonville, but today has signed for an undisclosed fee for League of Ireland Premier Division side Shelbourne. The 23-year-old has been capped by Northern Ireland at under-21 level and becomes Joey O'Brien's 5th signing at Tolka Park. And finally, Ulster Rugby have confirmed the signing of Zimbabwean second row Eli Snyman on a 2-year deal. The 29-year-old will join the province in the summer when he leaves Italian side Benetton. And that's the sport this evening. Declan.
Thank you very much for that. This is Max out enjoying a spring day in Belfast. Owner Danny sent that in. We appreciate it.
OK, spring? Have we got to spring already?
I suppose it's not really. OK, no, that's fair enough. I'm too keen. What is it going to look like?
Well, Max's paws would have been seriously wet in the rain this afternoon. Some of it was quite heavy. It was falling as sleet over the higher ground. It's now clearing away, though, thankfully, and it will be drying up tonight. But for the next few hours, there'll still be some bits and pieces of rain around. And then as skies start to clear, most of the showers will become confined to the northwest. Not quite as cold as last night, but still chilly enough. Maybe 1 or 2 localised spots of frost and ice tomorrow. But otherwise, those clearer skies will lead to a much nicer day tomorrow. So we've got some sunshine to come tomorrow. Lots of dry weather too. Some showers in the morning, mainly in the northwest, but I think a lot of places will avoid them and stay dry. Winds won't be particularly strong. Temperatures similar to today, but obviously without the rain, it will feel much nicer. It is going to be quite cold tomorrow night. Temperatures will drop to freezing, maybe just below, so there will be a risk of ice tomorrow night. A few wintry showers around as well. And that will lead us into some cold weather to start with on Friday. We are going to see some showers during the day on Friday, but you can see the winds coming in from the south. So most of the showers are going to be along eastern areas, and further west, it will be largely dry and bright with some sunshine. And that same area of low pressure with the chilly blue air is still there through Friday night and Saturday. So most of the wet weather is confined to eastern areas on Saturday. And then we see a bit of a change on Sunday. Rain's trying to move in from the Atlantic, but I think a lot of places will stay dry during the day and the rain won't arrive until after dark. So we're not doing a lot with the temperature. It stays more or less the same, close to average through the rest of the week and into the beginning of next week. We will have some chilly nights at times, low pressures close by as well. But I think most of the showers through Friday and Saturday will be in the east, so west is best. And although there's rain there on Sunday, it's not going to arrive until quite late in the day. So it's not a washout this weekend.
And despite my best efforts, winter, it seems, continues. See, thank you very much for that. Thank you for watching as well. We will, of course, update you with the late news at 10:30 here on BBC One Northern Ireland. But from all of us, thanks for watching.